Yeah. What's up with y'all boys and girls, man? Hey, it's Jay Briggs here continuing to cook up this NBA action, man. Y'all know we do here on the Jam Session. We cook up every single game, every single day, man. Money making Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Today will be a little different episode, man. I got a special guest coming on for us today, an absolute GOAT, man. Hey, his numbers speak for themselves. How long he's been doing it speaks for themselves, man. Um, you know, couldn't think of anybody better to have on for an episode like this, man, to come on and talk, speak some knowledge to us. I got Big Al McMorty coming on to talk with us a little bit today. Of course, we're still going to talk about how Tuesday's action is going to play out and how we see it playing out. But we're going to talk about a couple other things as well. So buckle up. It's going to be a little longer episode, man, but money making Tuesday nonetheless. Ladies and gentlemen, we are recording this on Monday, so I don't know how Monday's evening action end up playing out, but hopefully it panned out the right way, and we're looking to do some damage here on this Money Making Tuesday. I appreciate each and every one of you that continue to tune in and watch this video. All I ask is that you smash that like button for me. You subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as I always say, man, if you're rocking with me, rock with me. I'm active on Instagram and Twitter all day long. There's a link for both in the description below, and of course, I have premium plays over at the site. Money Making Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, let's hop right into today's NBA action. Ladies and gentlemen, man, I have Big Al McMorty with me. Big Al, man, how are you doing today? Glad to see you, my man. Glad to see you.
Yeah, glad to see you. You're looking great. I'm doing good. I mean, I don't know if you caught any of it last night. That incredible hockey game between Winnipeg and St. Louis. That was one for the ages. Um, but yeah, just enjoying this time of year. This is one of my favorite times of year when we have the NBA and NHL playoffs going on.
Yes, sir. I was tapped into that Winnipeg and St. Louis game because, of course, the winners plays my Stars. So it's going to be a hell of a series coming up. But yeah, same for me. I love this time of year. NHL, NBA playoffs. Baseball kind of just now getting into, I would say, the full swing of things. It's a great time of year. We got to enjoy the basketball in NHL while we have it before they disappear on us. And it's just
Yeah.
well,
Did you watch the Kentucky Derby on Saturday?
I did not watch the Derby. I did not.
That was. I had the winner, so I had him to show, but I had Sovereignty, and he ended up winning the race. It went off at 9-1. So that was a lot of fun.
That's what's up. I've only bet horses one time, and that was my first time was at Mitch's Celebration of Life with Carrie. That was the first time I ever bet horses in my life. I said I was gonna end up betting the Derby. It just slipped my mind because I've never done it. So Saturday kind of came and went.
Well, the Preakness is in a couple weeks, so maybe we can get you to bet your second horse race in 2 weeks.
Maybe. I gotta start see what's out there. Man, but Al, we're in the NBA playoffs, man. It's been, I would say, one of the weirder seasons to date. But
That's interesting. What makes it weird?
of course, for me,
Well, you're the trade. That's what makes it weird for you.
exactly.
I mean, like you must feel like you're in the Twilight Zone or something, like an alternate universe when you see, But I'm talking about if you take away the Luka Doncic, ridiculous trade, what has been weird about this year?
Um, Outside of that, just how certain teams are from year to year, I think was slightly different this year. Like some teams that were dominant from an ATS perspective, like really dominant last year, took really major steps back this year. Teams like Indiana, teams like Orlando, like from what they were last year to this season, I thought were drastic changes. You could look at certain things and point to why that was. For like Orlando injuries early, and but I
I
just
mean,
thought,
I thought Indiana has had a nice season. I mean,
right,
they were underwater from a point spread perspective this season. They were 40 and 46 with two pushes ATS, for the entire season now. But hey, they're in the quarterfinals, up one game on Cleveland. So you can't argue with the direction the team is going.
No, you're right. You're 100% correct. I've said Indiana, Boston was my Eastern Conference Finals again this year for majority of the season. That's what I've had. So I haven't really believed in Cleveland thoroughly. I said I was going to have to wait and see to the postseason if they were going to rear that ugly head. They kind of remind me of another Donovan Mitchell-led team, the Utah Jazz. Fairly good in
That's a very good analogy.
Man, and then fell apart in the postseason. So that was evident last night at home. They've now lost 3 straight games at home to Indiana. And Indiana's a different team, monster and animal, at home. So we'll see if Cleveland's able to battle their way back in that one. We'll talk about it here momentarily. And then...
Well, I thought the weirdest, if you would want to call it weird, part of this NBA season is that the Oklahoma City Thunder were historically great against the spread. I mean, there's never been a team, in the NBA that has done what it has done ATS over the entire season. So is that weird? Well, it's definitely,
the fans
abnormal.
The viewers of this show would tell you, no, that's not weird. Here on this show, it's Thunder Buddies for life.
No, I get that. I'm not saying you're not aware, but I'm saying, but that was the most unique thing of this year for me, was watching OKC just steamroll through from game 1 through game 82 the entire season, and do what they did ATS.
For sure. I would also say this was just the passing of the guard season. Like, you see, the older guys, it's over. Essentially, like.
But what's great is they're still doing it. Like
right.
Steph Curry and LeBron James. I mean, like, is it the passing of the guard? I mean, but they're still relevant.
They're relevant, but they're no longer. We'll see with Curry. As he's still battling, but
yeah, he's still battling.
The
fact that a 7 seed, has gotten here. I mean, that's impressive. But yeah, I mean, it's we're setting up for with OKC anyway, possibly a new dynasty.
Man, as young as they are, I think. They might be were they the second youngest team in the NBA this season? It's either them or Memphis. Those are the 2 youngest teams in the NBA this season. But yeah, shout out to Oklahoma City, and they play later on tonight. We're recording this on Monday for Tuesday.
For Tuesday, so yeah, they will be playing when people watch it. They will be playing tonight.
Correct, but we'll see if they take that commanding 1-0 lead at home, with Denver coming off that pretty grueling 7-game series against the Clippers. Great series. I think for me, that was probably the best series of round 1. Nuggets, Clippers, closely followed behind with Rockets, Warriors. That was probably my favorite too, the first round.
Yeah, I didn't get to see a lot. I've been watching, actually, to be honest, a lot more hockey than basketball. I just enjoy the hockey playoffs more. So, I watched the Winnipeg game last night, and I didn't watch the Warriors game. But I would agree with you. I think the Clippers Nuggets was probably the best series.
Yes,
but I think the Pistons Knicks, for a series that didn't go 7 games,
it was a good series.
Was a hell of a series with how those games went down to the wire as well.
It was the Knicks to watch the Knicks in the clutch was a sight to see. The Pistons controlled pretty much every game. The Knicks just found a way to steal it late fourth quarter. Shout out to Clutch and Jalen Brunson, and shout out to the rest of the guys. But I agree with you. I said that on the morning show this morning. I said the NHL playoffs have been better than the NBA playoffs this year. As somebody who's watching both a lot, like I got multiple monitors, NHL playoffs been on fire.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We shall see, man. Round 2. We're here. Speaking of round 2, Al, let's talk about some basketball, man. We got Cleveland, 9.5-point home favorites over Indiana, total 229.5. Cleveland looking to avoid falling down 0-2. Now, for majority of the season, they were one of the best ATS teams in the league. Post All-Star break, they started to kind of go through the motions as they had the 1 seed fairly locked up. So the bigger numbers that they were covering earlier in the season, they weren't necessarily covering later on in the season. But this is still, a top 3 ATS team this season. Do you think this is a great bounce back spot for them, or does Indiana just have the number?
Kind of both, right? I mean, those both statements can be true. It is, it is a great bounce back spot. But if you zoom into number 1 seeds versus number 4 seeds specifically, so that's you're getting real specific here when you're only looking at that matchup in the NBA. Historically, interestingly, number 1 seeds have not fared well against number 4 seeds. You would think they would, because generally number 1 seeds actually do fare well, in the NBA playoffs, but not in the quarterfinal round versus a number 4 seed. The number 1 seeds have gone 87, 88, and 4 ATS, and this is what is the most surprising when you look at these numbers. When the number 1 seed is off a loss to the number 4 seed, the number 1 seed has gone 23 and 34 ATS. And then the other surprising number to me when I looked at this matchup is that number 1 seeds, when they're laying 9 more points to a number 4 seed, they've gone 8, 15, and 2 ATS. So that is crazy when you see how well the number 1 seeds do, against like a number 8 seed, against a number 2 or 3 seed. But they don't do well in this matchup versus number 4 seed. So that's something that's concerning if you want to play on Cleveland and be laying the 9 or 9.5 points in game 2. I do like Cleveland in this game because, as I sort of said, it is a great bounce back spot, generally speaking. And Indiana this season has been underwater from a point spread perspective. They've gone 40 and 46 ATS with 2 pushes. Indiana has not done well this season off a straight up win. They're 21 and 33 off a straight up win and 6 and 10 ATS off an upset win. I do like Cleveland to bounce back, but the fact that they've kind of taken the pedal off the metal in the second half of the season is also concerning.
It's very concerning. For me, I feel like this is do or die for Cleveland. Like they almost have to show up here now. In this game, Indiana's a different team, monster and animal at home. So the fact that they've already stolen home court advantage in game 1 to me is huge. I think 9.5 points is too many, just based off what I've seen between these two teams. Now, is there a scenario, an avenue?
It's 9.5 because they're off the loss,
right?
So you're paying a little bit of a tariff to take that, home team off the home loss.
Correct. And I don't know if I'm ready to pay it. I don't know if I'm willing to pay that extra tariff. Do I expect Cleveland to have a better approach, a better game plan, to kind of play behind their home crowd in a more desperation way? I do. And like you said, Indiana hasn't been just amazing following wins this season. And the job for Indiana is already done. It wouldn't surprise me if they were down, 6, 7 points, with 2-3 minutes, and it got to 11 and they called the dogs off. I've seen that happen in playoff games many a times when they've already did what they needed to do and still in the road game. But just specifically looking at how these two teams have matched up this season, I gotta grab the 9.5 with Indiana here. And honestly, I think they have a legitimate chance to go here and win it again. I do. I don't trust Cleveland. It's ultimately what it boils down to. I think they're inexperienced. Garland's injury still lingering is huge. Mobley's now injury, I believe, is huge. We've already heard Jared Allen and out his own mouth before say the lights were too bright in the playoffs. Like, it's a lot of lumber to lay with everything going on with Cleveland. Can they do it? Yes. Do I expect them to do it? No. I think this game is going to be closer to the vest, and Indiana might have a chance to steal it outright. So, Al, I think I'm going to grab the points in my back pocket in this one.
Yeah, I just want to. I will say this as far as like if you look at a straight up statistic. So this is not an ATS statistic. This is just a straight up statistic. What's the money line here in game 2? Is it 475? Do you have it in front of you by any chance?
410 and plus 320 for Indiana.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out a statistic to you. This goes back to 1991. Favorites of 8 or more points off a loss in game 1. There have been 42 games. They are 40-2 straight up.
Okay, right.
So, don't know if they're going to cover the spread. I would be very, 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 very comfortable laying, the money line price with Cleveland in game 2. I don't think there's. Yes, they can lose, but it's historically teams in this. And if you want to go down to 7.5 points, so let's just, instead of 8 points, teams favored by 7.5 or more are 49-3 straight up after a loss in game 1. Cleveland's going to win this game. The issue is, are they going to cover?
There you go. There you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Have you thought anything about the over-under at all?
I say the same thing every time. I really hate the way totals make me watch these games, especially in the postseason. If I were to play it, I would go with an over. I feel like both of these two teams offensively, last game was kind of a filling out process. I think in this one, two offensive teams, I think it's for me to expect there to be more offense. Cleveland, they got to be better defensively than they were in game 1. If they want to play this offensive game with Indiana, they're going to lose. Remember, Indiana last season, I want to say, was the best offensive team ever in NBA history. And, there's a reason why they're this good. So I think it's going to be a higher scoring game. Cleveland going to have to show me the defense. This is in Miami this time. This is Indiana. So I'm going over. I'm going to go over the total.
Yeah, I would lean to the under just because of the number. You're looking at a 229.5. Now, last game it was 229, and that actually snapped a string of 12 straight quarterfinal games with over-under lines north of 227 that had gone under. So you had 12 unders in a row with these high lines, and then game 1 snapped that, and now it's 12-1 the last 13. But I'd still lean to the under in this game. And, game 2s tend to go under if game 1 was over the total. So I'd lean to the under, but, I would never make it a play.
There we go. I'm not playing that either. I'm just letting y'all know. That's Cleveland, Indiana, though. We'll see if Cleveland responds. And when they do, 40-2, how dumb.
It's one of those things, like we would never give out a like a minus 500 money line play to our clients. That's just nothing that we do as handicappers. But as far as something I might put a bet down on, yeah, I might put a bet down on that.
Fair enough. We got a game 1, Big Al. Warriors closed out the Rockets last night. Buddy Hield went for 30 points. Timberwolves well rested, though. Got the rest advantage as they packed up the Lakers fairly quickly. Timberwolves, sizable home favorites right now. I'm seeing 7.5 Timberwolves. Total,
yeah.
8.5. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Well, my one thought is I'm glad I bet on it last night at -6. So I was able to get a good number. It was actually 5.5 in some spots and 6 in some spots last night. But yeah, it just took off this morning. I guess I'm giving it away. I like Minnesota in this game. I had Golden State on Sunday in that upset win over Houston. I can't believe they were giving Golden State 2.5 points, in that game seven. But off that upset win, I really don't want any part of Golden State in this game one. Golden State has not done well off wins this season. In their last 44 games, coming off a win, they're 15-29 ATS, including 0-6 ATS off an upset win. So I just don't trust Golden State to be consistently good. And as you mentioned, you've got Minnesota just rested and waiting, and I like the Timberwolves.
It pains me to say it, but so do I. At least here in game one. I think the Warriors,
Correct. At least here in game one.
I like the Warriors for the series, but here in game one, I think the stars align here to take Minnesota. For me, it's Minnesota lost their last two home games of the last two games they played Golden State. They both were in Minnesota, and they lost both. 113-103 on the 21st of December, and 116-115 on the 15th of January. I like playing these type of angles. Y'all know this, the double revenge game at home at the crib. Now, typically Minnesota is the house of disappointment, but with Golden State coming off the 7-game series on the road, now having to go to Minnesota, one thing that I saw from Minnesota in that first round was how big they were able to play with Randall and Gobert. Golden State, a smaller ball team, a small ball style team. It's going to be an interesting chess match how it plays out throughout the series. And like Al said, with Golden State not being necessarily one of the most consistent teams there is, I think this is going to be a filling out process. And in game one, it wouldn't shock me if Minnesota came and punched them in the mouth.
Yeah. Do you know what I found? Something that I thought I was surprised at this. This is just since 1991. This is just the second playoff matchup between a 6 and a 7 seed.
For real? Wow.
Yeah, I would have thought we would have had some upsets, a 2-7 and a 6-3, both upsetting in the same, year more often. But the only other time it happened was, I want to say 2023, or maybe it was 2021. I forget the year, but it was when Golden State played the Lakers in the second round of the playoffs, and they were both 6 and 7 seeds, and they pulled off upsets.
Wow.
So I found that interesting that we've got, since 1991, just the second time this has happened. I'm pretty sure it happened in the 80s. I seem to remember maybe the Kansas City Omaha Kings and maybe the Houston Rockets. I could be wrong. I don't know what seeds they might have been, but I seem to remember those two teams matching up one year off upset wins in the first round. But yeah, since 1991, this is just the second time.
There we go, man. That's crazy. But yeah, they both did pull upsets in the first round. That's what else I was going to say when I thought it was a weird season, because of how tightly compacted it was in the West. They were all like, how long they were compacted to the last day of the season. Like,
yeah, you could throw the seeds really out the window. I mean, like from 2 through, 7, there is all the same.
Right. So, man, any thoughts on the total here in this one? For me, I would say I would lean under in this one. Do I love it? No. But the way Golden State played with defensive intensity in that game 7, that was encouraging to see. And I feel like, effort, energy might be a little lower here in game 1. Minnesota, kind of bigger defensive style team. I could see this being a lower scoring game. So I would lean towards an under here. But I hate totals in playoffs.
Yeah, I kind of look at it a different way. I think, teams off a game 7 win. I think that is such an emotional game. And I think you tend to be exhausted emotionally for that game 1. So when and if you look at how teams off a game 7 win do in a game 1 situation, they actually do go over the total, 51-36 to the over. the teams, and then when you look at how they do ATS, although I'm looking at a stat here, I might need to filter it out because some teams could both be off game 7 wins. But if you forget that, then a team off a game 7 win is 35, 51, and 1 ATS, from a side perspective. So that kind of just says, they don't do well in the game ones, and the game ones tend to go over the total. So they're probably playing poor defense and they're just exhausted.
Makes sense. Al, man, I appreciate you joining me today more than you know.
No. I'm happy to be part of the best NBA show, on the interweb.
Appreciate it, man. I really do appreciate it. You being one of the GOATs of this industry, one of the all-time great handicappers, where can the people find you that don't already know where to find you and where to find your work?
Pickdawgz.com is where they can find me. It's been Mitch has built a really great site with some of the greatest handicappers, so it's great to work with you and Ron Romanelli and Chris Ruffalo and Rod Zawacki and all the others, Tony Tellez. Just at pickdawgz.com. I do a video series with Eric Pathy, the all access video series. So, and if folks want to, get on board for my plays, I'm on a nice 114 and 71 run, my last 185. So it's been good.
Been good, man. Check out Big Al McMorty, man. One of the absolute GOATs. One of the GOATs, man. And I appreciate you taking out some time to come talk with us, come talk some hoops. And, we're still early in the playoffs. Hopefully we can see you back maybe again here soon. And, before we blink.
Maybe we'll get together on Preakness Stakes weekend and we can talk some horse racing as well.
Yeah, there we go. And, I was going to say, before we blink, NFL will be here and we'll be doing our NFL show again.
Although you know what next Monday is, Jay?
What is that?
My favorite day of the NBA schedule these days. The NBA draft lottery.
We'll see what
I'm a Spurs fan, so we haven't made the playoffs in 6 years or however long it's been. So this is what I look forward to is the NBA draft lottery every year.
Quickly, one more thing. Speaking of Spurs, how do you feel about Pop moving up and owner coaching?
I mean, it's a sad day for the NBA. He is probably the most, I would say easily the most well-liked coach in the player circles, in the league. The players, whether you're on the Spurs or on another team, the players love this guy. So from an NBA family perspective, they just lost probably their most esteemed member.
Right.
The fact that he's going up. From a Spurs fans perspective, it had to end sometime. He was great. Now it's Mitch Johnson's team. We'll see how he does. If he doesn't do well, they'll find a replacement. That's the NBA business. But shout out to Pop. He gave a great 28 years. So, and he was, in management before he came down. He fired Bob Hill and took over, which at the time, I don't know if you knew this, but that was a very unpopular move. People thought he sabotaged Bob Hill when he fired him and, took over as coach back in 1996 or whatever. But it worked out. People thought it was, he was a bit of an ego case to do that because Bob Hill had a great season the year before, but then we got off to a slow start because of injuries, and then Pop just found the right moment to fire him, and got away with it. So it's interesting. But it's he doesn't have the career he has without the players. If they don't win the lottery and get Tim Duncan, then no one's going to know who Greg Popovich is.
Correct. NBA players.
But here's the thing. This is the mistake that people make, because people always say, "Oh well, Eric Spoelstra hasn't won without Shaq, or not Shaq, but well, without Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, and so and so hasn't won. Everyone has to win with players. That's a given. But a lot of coaches don't win with players.
Correct.
And so that's what separates the Popoviches, the Spoelstras, the Steve Kerrs, the whoever, right? Yes, they had to have the players to win, but there's a lot of coaches who never won anything with good players.
You're correct, 100% correct.
People forget that.
I subscribe to that same thought process. Yes.
So yeah, you have to have the necessary ingredients, but only the great coaches actually end up doing it. So
there you go, man. There you go.
I mean, do you have any thoughts on Pop from a rival, from a Dallas Mavericks perspective?
It's not my team no more at the moment. Hopefully Luka come back. But
sorry.
But nah, I like to say a shout out to Pop, man. Shout out to him. I wish I could have played for Pop. Probably would have ran through a wall for him. But that's just the type of guy he seems like he is. Really outspoken, never holds his tongue about anything he's feeling. And you just got to always respect a man of that stature and respect what he did for the game, for players. And I hope his health, comes to a good point where he's able to, live out the rest of his life the way he wants to. So
yeah, and the other thing about Popovich is that he was able to succeed in different eras with different styles.
All right.
So in the '90s, he had a team that was built on the inside with twin towers. Robinson and Duncan throw the ball in. His defense. And then in 2011, they switched to an offensive, freewheeling passing style that culminated in a championship in 2014. But they were, at the forefront of that. And then, teams like Golden State then took it a step further. And, he was able to adapt and change, throughout his career. And not every coach does that.
No, they do not. Man, Al, it's been fun, man. I really appreciate you joining me. Continue to kick the crap out of the books the way you are, man. If y'all don't know, go check out Al's numbers over at Pickdawgz Premium over the last 12 months. Fairly astonishing. He's the GOAT of the industry for a reason. So just glad you spent some time with us today. We'll check you out. Tell them to check you out over at Pickdawgz Premium. Check me out too, of course.
Do a 2-for-1 handicapper special. You get Jay and me, and be a good package.
Pair us up, man. We appreciate each and every one of y'all that continue to tune in and watch this video. All I ask is that you smash that like button for me. You subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as I always say, man, if you're rocking with me, rock with me. I'm active on Instagram and Twitter all day long. There's a link for both in the description below. And of course, I have premium plays over at the site. It's been your guy, Jay Briggs, with McMorty. We out here. Peace.